Hello, today is Thursday, September 9th, 2021. I'm Nicolette Peterberry, part of the Division of Policy and Education at OLA, and today it is my pleasure to welcome our speakers, Dr. Jane Na and Dr. Helen Diggs, to the OLA online seminars to present what every Ayakuk should know about ALAC International. Dr. Jane Na is the Director of the Division of Assurances in the National Institutes of Health, Office of Laboratory Animal Welfare. She completed her laboratory animal medicine residency, as well as her Bachelor of Science in Biopsychology and Cognitive Science at the University of Michigan, and attained her Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree from Michigan State University. Prior to joining OLA in 2017, Dr. Na was the lead analyst at the University of California, San Francisco in the Institutional Animal Care and Use Program Office. Dr. Helen E. Diggs is the Senior Director for ALAC International. She was previously the attending veterinarian, director of Laboratory Animal Resources Center, and a professor at the Carson College of Veterinary Medicine at Oregon State University. Prior to that, she was attending veterinarian and director of the Office of Laboratory Animal Care at the University of California, Berkeley. She earned her veterinary degrees from Oregon State University and Washington State University, and received an honorary doctorate of science from Oregon State University. She served on the board of directors for the Oregon Veterinary Medical Association and is a past president of the American College of Laboratory Animal Welfare and Laboratory Animal Medicine, ACLAM. Dr. Diggs served as an ALAC International ad hoc beginning in 1994 and served on ALAC Council from 2007 to 2018. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the OLA online seminar, and now to hand the microphone over to Dr. Na.
Thank you. Greetings. I'm happy to be here with you and Dr. Diggs for this OLA webinar. The learning objectives for today's first portion of the webinar are to understand the relationship between OLA and ALAC International, review important concepts related to ALAC International and OLA, and to describe the guide notice encouraging use of the ALAC program description sections to complete the OLA domestic assurance. First, we will compare and contrast some characteristics about both. From the excerpts of the missions of OLA and ALAC International, we see that the goals are very similar. Both missions emphasize the humane animal care and use for quality research, testing, and education. But OLA is an entity of the federal government. It's an office within the National Institutes of Health, which is one of several components of the Public Health Service, the PHS, in the Department of Health and Human Services, while ALAC International is a private nonprofit organization that Dr. Diggs will talk more about in the second portion of this webinar. The Health Research Extension Act provides the legislative mandate for the PHS policy on humane care and use of laboratory animals, which requires the use of the Guide for the Care and Use of Laboratory Animals as the basis for your animal care and use program, as well as the American Veterinary Medical Association's Panel on Euthanasia guidelines for the euthanasia of animals. Since ALAC International is a private organization, there are no corresponding laws, although like ALAC, the Guide and AVMA guidelines for euthanasia are important documents. The Guide is one of ALAC's 3 primary standards, which Dr. Diggs will discuss later. One big difference between OLA and ALAC International is that oversight by OLA is required for institutions receiving funding by any of the public health service entities, such as NIH, FDA, CDC, BARDA, or for the National Science Foundation and NASA, which are based on the OLA MOUs with those agencies. To contrast, ALAC International accreditation is completely voluntary, and an institution does not need to be ALAC accredited to obtain an assurance, and vice versa. An institution does not need to be an assured organization to obtain ALAC accreditation. An important document that is used in OLA's oversight is the Animal Welfare Assurance, which is essentially a description of an institutional animal care and use programs program. And it's somewhat similar to the ALAC document called the program description. One important difference regarding working with OLAW compared to ALAC International is that since OLAW is an entity of the federal government, documents submitted to OLAW are subject to FOIA, the Federal Freedom of Information Act, while ALAC International's accreditation process is confidential. So we'll talk now about where ALAC International appears and intersects with OLAW in the PHS policy. There are several spots within PHS policy that mentions accreditation. First, each institution must assure that its program and facilities are in one of the categories. Category 1 for accredited by ALAC International, or Category 2, non-accredited. All of the institutions, programs, and facilities have to be accredited in order to qualify for Category 1. And if any portion of that program is not accredited, that institution becomes Category 2 in the assurance. Category 2 non-accredited institutions are required to submit a semi-annual report to OLAW for review and a review with the assurance document that's submitted to OLAW. ALAC is also mentioned regarding record keeping because an institution must keep records of any accrediting body documents. And the annual report to OLAW includes ALAC International because in the annual report, the institution submits through the IO in reporting to OLAW any change in the institution's program or facilities that would place the institution in a different category than specified in its assurance. So in the 2015 revision of the PHS policy, it specifically noted that the only accrediting body recognized by the PHS is ALAC International. So they play a big role in the PHS policy because they appear so many times. So let's go back to comparing and contrasting, but this time let's compare and contrast Category 1 accredited institutions with Category 2 non-accredited institutions. So as we indicated, both of those categories would indicate their accreditation status within the assurance document. So it's the same process for both. And accredited facilities have to be identified in the semi-annual report to the IO, which both categories would indicate this, whether or not they have accredited facilities. And the spot where they differ is that Category 1 accredited institutions do not submit their semi-annual report to the IO with their assurance, while Category 2 non-accredited institutions must submit that document for review by OLAW. One thing to note is that for Category 2 institutions, non-accredited, when submitting their semi-annual report to the IO, they should submit only the semi-annual report. So this is what we want to see, and not their checklist. So although the checklist may be used in the semi-annual evaluations, this is not something that is required by OLAW. So again, Category 2 non-accredited institutions should submit the semi-annual report to the OLAW, not the checklist with the assurance. Moving on, both Category 1 as well as Category 2 institutions maintain accrediting body determinations and documents within the institution's records, and both Category 1 and Category 2 report changes in accreditation status in their annual report to OLAW. So as was emphasized, The difference between Category 1 accredited institutions and Category 2 non-accredited institutions relates to submission of the semi-annual report to the IO with the assurance. So again, Category 1 accredited institutions are only required to submit their semi-annual report to OLAW just upon request. This is contrasted with Category 2 non-accredited institutions that are required to submit the semi-annual report to the OLAW upon assurance review, whether it's a new or renewal assurance, and they're also required to submit the semi-annual report upon request. So moving on, I'm going to talk about the guide notice that was recently released as an initiative of the 21st Century Cures Act. This notice was released in order to provide flexibility to institutions to potentially use portions of the ALAC International program description sections within the domestic animal welfare assurance to OLAW. The guide notice itself is linked, which will be in the slides. And I will go on to talk about the sections that can be used. So regarding post-approval monitoring, this is section 3D9 in the domestic assurance. And then the corresponding sections that you can use if you'd like is the ALAC program description section 21B2, part A and part E. Please note that any information that is requested within the PHS assurance for OLAW is still required to be present, and it is recommended that information from the program description that is not asked for in the assurance is not provided. So in this case, for the domestic assurance, these are the prompts or instructions in the post-approval monitoring section, and they are pretty much overlapping the portions included in the PHS, in the program description, apologies. So this covers the majority requested, and most of the portions in the program description can be cut and paste into the domestic assurance. The next section, which is actually the largest section with many components that could be used, is the Occupational Health and Safety Program, which is Domestic Assurance Part 3E. And the corresponding sections that can be used from the ALAC program description are the sections on the screen, essentially planning, oversight, and operation of the Occupational Health and Safety Program, as well as describing personal medical evaluation as a component of the individual risk assessment, safety considerations, general features of the medical evaluation and preventive medicine programs, and education, such as training to inform personnel about allergies, zoonoses, personal hygiene, physical injuries, or special factors considering the species used, such as non-human primates. Additionally, information about PPE and protective work clothing could be included, and personal hygiene practices and eating, drinking, and smoking policies related to appropriate hygiene. Although this is a lot of different concepts that are included with the program description, there are a lot of concepts that are additional that OLAW does not request. So it is recommended that you only copy and paste the portions as included in the guide notice and on our website. And so you do not have additional information that is not necessary, because as you recall, documents submitted to OLAW can be subject to federal FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. These are the sections in the prompts for the domestic assurance, which some of these do overlap what is included in the program description, but there are additional caveats. Next, is the section on training. So that is the Domestic Assurance Part 3G. The relevant program description sections are on the screen, and they include veterinary care staff training and continuing education, the animal care training and continuing education, as well as the research team required training, as well as continuing education, and the IACUC member orientation training and continuing education. The corresponding requested sections in the domestic assurance are as follows, which pretty much overlap with what has been requested and included in the program description. Although describing how the IACUC evaluates the effectiveness of the training program is something that is not necessarily included. So again, institutions must ensure that information requested and required in the domestic assurance is provided. I know that was a lot of information, and all the details can be found online. In order to find this, from the OLAW homepage, you can click on the turquoise banner for the 21st Century Cures Act. And from there, then you would click on the cute rat on the ALAC program description icon for the sections to use in the domestic assurance document. Or definitely don't be shy. Please reach out to the Division of Assurances if you need any assistance. From our homepage, in the upper right, there's a search bar, and you can click on Contact Us to call or contact or email a specific individual, and we would be happy to assist you with any questions, concerns, or hypothetical situations. And we are also available by email. So today we learned the relationship between OLAW and ALAC International, as well as important concepts related to ALAC International and OLAW in the PHS policy. And I described the guide notice for encouraging use of the ALAC program description sections to complete portions of the OLAW domestic assurance. And now we will proceed to our next speaker, and I will be changing over to Dr. Diggs.
Thank you, Dr. Na.
You're welcome. You have the reins, Helen.
Thank you. Welcome again to what every IACUC should know about ALAC International. Today, I am going to review with you ALAC International in general information, accreditation program and the process, primary standards and reference resources, trends in site visit findings, myths and facts, and the value of accreditation. Let's start with our mission statement. ALAC International is a voluntary accrediting organization that ensures the quality of research, testing, and education by promoting humane and responsible research, animal care, and use through provision of advice and independent assessments to participating institutions and accreditation of those that meet or exceed applicable standards. ALAC International was chartered in 1965. It is a non-governmental agent, not a regulatory agency, and it is a nonprofit organization. ALAC International accredits active animal care and use programs. An animal care and use program includes animals, facilities, equipment, professional, technical, and administrative support, and policies and programs for institutional responsibilities, animal husbandry, and veterinary medical care. Since we were chartered, we have enjoyed continued steady growth over the years. Currently, we have more than 100 accredited programs in Europe and Latin America, more than 200 accredited programs in the Pacific Rim and Southeast Asia, and over 700 accredited programs in North America. Accredited programs include commercial at 46%, universities at 27%, government at 13%, nonprofit at 10%, and 4% hospitals. For comparison, as Dr. Na provided for you, I'm going to speak only to the ALAC International, but you can read across. Responsible agency, you can see we've got USDA included here now as well. Private nonprofit, that's ALAC. Applicability, voluntary. Species covered, warm-blooded, live vertebrates, and most for ALAC because only some invertebrates are fully covered and other invertebrates are considered only from an occupational health and safety perspective. Standards for the guide for ALAC, the guides and ETS 123, which we call our primary standards. I will speak to this more later in this program. Enforcement, confidential peer reviews, sanctions, revocation of accreditation, and link to funding, indirect. Myth versus fact. Myth, ALAC International is part of the IACUC. Fact, the acronym associated with animal research can be confusing, but it is important to know that ALAC is not linked to the IACUC, the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee. The IACUC is charged with local oversight of the institution's animal care and use program. As part of the site visit, ALAC evaluates the performance of the IACUC to ensure that it is functioning well. ALAC accreditation serves as an external third-party review. ALAC has a program status evaluation, or better called pre-accreditation evaluation. You can find this link on our website at www.alac.org. The PSE, or pre-accreditation evaluation, is a completely confidential peer review that helps assess the quality of all aspects of your animal program, including animal husbandry, veterinary medical care, institutional policies, and the facilities where animals are housed and used. The objective of the PSE service is twofold. First, it is meant to assist institutions in determining if their animal care and use program meets ALAC standards by identifying weaknesses and suggesting ways to improve or correct them. Second, it familiarizes institutions with the ALAC accreditation process and encourages them to participate. The complete details and how to apply for the program are found under pre-accreditation evaluation, the menu on our website. Myth versus fact. Myth. In the United States, ALAC International evaluates animal care and use programs that only use animals regulated under the Animal Welfare Act. Fact. ALAC International accreditation covers all animals used or to be used in research, teaching, or testing at accredited programs. In our rules of accreditation, the definition for animals is, this includes traditional laboratory animals, farm animals, wildlife, and aquatic animals, non-traditional animals, invasive or invertebrate species, and also included where they are also included where they are relevant to the program's mission. The accreditation program, it is completely confidential, performance-based, and a peer review process. So the process, first, go to our ALAC website and go to apply for accreditation. This is where you will complete the application packet. Then you will be directed to complete a program description. The details of this are also on the website under program description. The program description is a detailed self-evaluation of your program. Then you will prepare for an evaluation. The evaluation or site visit is typically completely performed on site, but with COVID, we have been doing what we call hybrid visits. Certain review components, such as document review and IACUC meetings, are done using secure document platforms and video conferencing. The facility review, however, must be done on site. Most site visits during the pandemic have been in the hybrid format. See the red banner on our website homepage for hybrid site visit details. After the site visit, the Council on Accreditation reviews findings and determines site visit outcomes. Institutions are then notified of their accreditation status. ALAC relies on principles in 3 primary standards for evaluating laboratory animal care and use programs. The Guide for the Care and Use of Laboratory Animals, the Guide for the Care and Use of Agricultural Animals in Research and Teaching, and the European Convention, ETS 123. An ALAC committee, council committee, is currently reviewing the new 4th edition of the Ag Guide for its use as a primary standard. Myth versus fact. Myth. ALAC International establishes policies and regulations. Fact. ALAC International evaluates animal care and use programs based on recommendations in the 3 primary standards: applicable legislation and other references. ALAC also uses other specialty publications for supplemental information about procedures or techniques related to the care and use of animals. These specialty publications are designated as reference resources, and they can be found on our website, again at www.alac.org. The references included on this list have been formally reviewed and adopted by ALAC International's Council on Accreditation as guidance for accredited programs and site visit teams. Although some are federal regulations, others are from the peer-reviewed scientific literature. As such, the research community helps establish the standards. The standards are science-based, science-driven, and the collective professional judgment of experts. In summary, reference resources are ALAC's reference resources, the FAQs and position statements I add in here. They are also part of the reference resource list and found on our website, all found on our website, and your institution's program description, which is your own self-assessment program. And these are in addition to our 3 primary standards as stated before. Myth versus fact. Myth. ALAC International uses the same standards to evaluate animal programs outside the United States. Fact. Because each country has its own set of laws and regulations, ALAC International site visitors use a customized approach to evaluating programs. Site visitors must be aware of applicable and pertinent local regulations when they are doing site visits. A bit about the peer review process. First is the program description. This document is used by the site visitors when they are reviewing your program and your facilities. And it is the institution's own detailed self-evaluation. It follows the template that is available to accredited programs on our website. The site visit includes council members and the site visit team and the organization's own experts. The Council on Accreditation Multiple council members view site visit reports. Full council reviews reports at triannual meetings. The Committee for Consistency, which is our own internal quality assurance, reviews items that may be inconsistent with ALAC guidance or standards. And we have a robust continuing education program for all council members and site visit teams. The guide uses two key terms, must and should. Must indicates actions that are imperative for humane animal care and use. Should indicates a strong recommendation. Failure to comply with a must statement is reviewed by the site visit team as a mandatory finding. Mandatory findings are deficiencies that must be corrected for full accreditation to be continued, awarded or continued. Should, failure to comply with a should statement is reviewed by the site visit team as an SFI. SFIs are considered as an upgrade or enhancement to an already acceptable or even commendable program. Site visit reports typically result in a list of findings, either mandatory findings or SFIs. This graph represents the most recent five-year analysis of findings, all under the 2011 guide, and they are grouped together in 7 component areas. First, animal environment, occupational health and safety, oversight body or IACUC, veterinary medical care, administrative components, which includes the things like the annual report, disaster plan, and program description, as well as others, HVAC and physical plant, HVAC being heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, and the institutional administration, which includes such things as authority, responsibility, commitment, and organizational structure. As you see here, the 2 greatest challenge areas for programs are, and continue to be throughout the years, animal environment and occupational health and safety. Program elements with the most suggestions for improvement, or SFIs, are workplace safety risk assessment, husbandry and sanitation, behavioral social management, and protocol review considerations. I'm going to give you some examples of each of 4 of these. Workplace safety risk assessment would be failure to provide protective clothing and equipment to personnel working in the animal facility or an animal area. That can be found in the guide, pages 20 to 21. For husbandry sanitation, lack of a method for assessing and monitoring the effectiveness of primary animal enclosure sanitation. That can be found in the guide, page 73. Behavioral social management, inconsistent use of environmental enrichment. This is in our ALAC FAQ, environmental enrichment, also in the guide, pages 51 to 54, and ALAC's position statement on social housing, and also in the guide, pages 82 to 83. And lastly, protocol review considerations. Failure to justify animal numbers on animal use protocols. That is in the guide, page 25. Program elements with the most mandatory findings are workplace safety risk assessment, behavioral social management, HVAC, and euthanasia. Examples for these are workplace safety risk assessment, lack of a written respiratory protection program for personnel required to wear respirators. This is ALAC's FAQ, respirator use. Behavioral social management. The default animal housing method for the program was single housing for social species instead of social housing for social species. Note that this is not a must in the guide, but it is a mandatory for per ALAC standards. And ALAC, the reference would be ALAC's FAQ, social housing and social experience, and ALAC's position statement on social housing. For HVAC, failure to submit an updated and or accurate Appendix 11 HVAC system performance summary with the program description. And under euthanasia, failure to comply with the AVMA guidelines for the euthanasia of animals, 2020 edition, regarding the use of carbon dioxide for euthanasia of rodents. Not advancing there. There we go. Myth versus fact. Myth. ALAC imposes biomedical standards on our agricultural animal research programs. Fact. ALAC does not hold agricultural facilities to the same criteria used to evaluate biomedical research facilities and laboratories. ALAC expects that agricultural animal research programs meet the standards for housing and care that prevail on a high-quality, well-managed farm. One of ALAC's primary standards, remember, is the Ag Guide. Perceptions versus reality. Perceptions. ALAC overinterprets standards. ALAC imposes new standards. Suggestions for improvement must be followed. Reality. ALAC looks to science, published data, scientific principles, expert opinions, experience with proven methods and practices. State-of-the-art practices evolve, constantly evolve. Mandatory items are based on existing standards. Suggestions for improvement are just that, and perceived inconsistencies are continuously reviewed by ALAC Council. The importance of periodic assessment. After the site visit, there is a post-site visit communication between the council member and the program contact. As a result of this correspondence, 86% of findings are resolved. After council deliberations, the final letter, which we call the CNR letter for commendations and recommendations, goes back to the program. Retained findings in the letters are only 11% of the total SFIs and 3% of the overall total mandatory findings. Also remember that only mandatory findings require an institutional response. The value of accreditation. Improves opportunities for the inter and intra-institutional collaborations that may result in sponsored research funding and enhanced networking. Leverages institutional support for facility upgrades and continuing improvements. Adds credibility to the institution's program among federal agencies, such as NIH, National Science Foundation, the Department of Defense, and sponsors such as the National Institute of Food and Agriculture or Agricultural Research Services. Stimulates continuous program self-assessment, benchmarking, and improvements. Assures the public of the institution's commitment to achieving the highest quality animal care and science. ALAC's periodic external assessment assures the institution, funding agencies, and the public that they are remaining diligent, staying current with regulatory requirements, ever-changing, ever-evolving industry standards, and maintaining a high level of excellence. Thank you for participating in this webinar, and I will now turn this back to Dr. Na.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
So we thank you, Dr. Diggs, and I'd like to remind attendees that if they have questions, we will only be accepting questions through the question and answer feature located at the bottom middle of your screens. So please click on the question and answer icon located at the bottom middle of your screens to type your questions. There's a checkbox in the Q&A feature that provides the option to submit questions anonymously. And now we have a few questions that we received in advance of the webinar. Let's proceed to question 1. Question 1. Does ALAC International have any reporting requirements for accredited programs? Dr. Diggs?
Thank you, Nicolette. ALAC's reporting expectations are on our website. Among our FAQs near the bottom of the list, go to maintaining accreditation and then reporting requirements. And there you will find the list of adverse events to be reported promptly to ALAC.
Thank you, Dr. Diggs. Let's go on to question 2. Aside from the hybrid site visits, has anything else at ALAC changed as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic? Dr. Diggs?
For our accredited programs, from their viewpoint, the most notable change is the hybrid site visit model. I'd like to say, though, that we are fortunate to have been able to continue performing site visits throughout the pandemic. That's thanks to an amazing office staff at ALAC and wonderful site visitors, both council and our ad hoc visitors. And also want to say that our accredited institutions continue to maintain a very high quality of animal care and use programs.
Thank you, Dr. Diggs. We do have a few questions from listeners. The first one is, how does the animal welfare and regulations, I'm assuming the Animal Welfare Act and its regulations, factor into ALAC's resources, primary and otherwise?
Can you read the question again?
Yes, and if the attendee who posted this question would like to clarify, that would help greatly. How does the animal welfare and regulations factor into ALAC's resources, primary and otherwise?
I will say that our ALAC site visit teams are certainly very aware of the Animal Welfare Act regulations and also OLA requirements, as they are both the federal agency requirements. And we do pay attention to those as we're doing our site visits, and we'll make notes to the program if there's an issue with compliance in either one of those agencies. If the person asking the question has a more specific question, they can contact me directly.
Thank you, Dr. Diggs. Another question? Please share information regarding duties of the attending veterinarian. I'm assuming from an ALAC perspective.
The duties of an attending veterinarian are and overall role and responsibility are actually posted on our website under as a position statement. So if you go to our website, www.alac.org, and go to position statements, you will find in there a link to the answer to that question in greater detail than I can provide right here.
Thank you, Dr. Diggs. Another question, can ALAC International cite a mandatory finding if it only affects human health and not animal health?
That will depend, and it depends probably on where the animal health issue is. If it's part of the, somehow related to the animal program, part of the animal program's facilities or program that allows such a health risk to occur, and it is an egregious risk health, a risk to the health of personnel or staff or even visitors, it could possibly become a mandatory item. Animal health as well as human health is something that we pay attention to when we're doing our site visits.
Thank you, Dr. Diggs. Another question, are there currently any delays in the timeline for initial accreditation posted on the website due to the pandemic? For example, the December 1st deadline for submission and the site visit between January and March?
Not that I am aware of, but I know that postponements due to COVID are being negotiated by the office. And so if you go to that red banner on our homepage and click on that, there is information in there about postponements and who to contact if you have an issue with the scheduling of your site visit.
Thank you, Dr. Diggs. Yet another question. Are ALAC site visitors required to be vaccinated against COVID-19?
I don't know that I can say that there is a requirement for that. I know that many veterinarians have gotten vaccines from their states, but the requirements, I would simply say no to requirements.
Thank you, Dr. Diggs. Another question. Does a satellite facility, I'm assuming, that is not accredited make the entire institution Category 2 non-accredited?
A great question. So yes, if the satellite facility is part of the animal care and use program that is covered under an institution's animal welfare assurance, if it is Category 2, that does make the entire institution Category 2 non-accredited.
Dr. Diggs, do you have anything to add for that question?
I think that Dr. Nas probably has a more direct answer. If there's a satellite facility and it is part of the program and there are issues in that facility when we visit it, that will be something that we might have to cite or mention to the program.
Thank you, Dr. Diggs. We have another question about one of Dr. Diggs's slides. What is the time frame for the charts Dr. Diggs shared? Were the findings within a particular calendar year?
I'm not quite sure. For the findings?
I'm assuming it's for the findings.
Findings are specific to the site visit, which occurs every 3 years.
Right. If the person asking this question wants to clarify, I think they mean the data that was shown on the slides.
The data was over a 5-year window.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We have another question. Could an institution that is not USDA registered still apply for ALAC accreditation? Should USDA registration be obtained before applying for ALAC accreditation? There
is no requirement for that. And it depends really on what species of animals that institution is maintaining. If you are a small biotech and all you have is mice, you may not have a reason to be registered with the USDA.
Thank you. We have another question. What is the expected timeline for prompt reporting of reportable incidents to ALAC International?
Prompt depends a bit on the severity of the issue. And we would like you to make sure that you let us know if something significant is happening that we should be aware of. If you are reporting it to OLA or the USDA, that would be significant and we should hear about that. And then there may be other situations in your facility that you think are worthy of reporting. If you have a question, you can always call the office and ask us what we think and whether it should be reported or not.
Thank you, Dr. Diggs. We have another question. How soon does ALAC anticipate making a determination on the acceptance of the 4th edition of the Ag Guide as a primary reference? Once adopted, oh, I'm sorry. There was an add-on to that question. Once adopted, approximately how long might it be before those revised standards are used for evaluating programs?
I can't give you a timeline at this moment. Our council will be meeting the 3rd week of September, and we will have an answer to that, but we have to wait till our full council can review the material before an answer to that comes out. Once it is approved, though, I think that I recall that typically for a primary standard, we give our programs at least a year to implement those. So I hope I'm not misstating that, but I think there'll be a nice timeline, a time window for people to review that document and incorporate whatever pieces of it they need into their programs.
Thank you, Dr. Diggs. Another question. Does ALAC International have a place to review the roles and responsibilities of the IACUC chair? Does an accredited program have to have a chair?
So the IACUC chair should report most often directly to the IO, and oversight of the IOs of the IACUC chair's performance then would be the responsibility of the institutional official. And what was the second part?
I think that was, is an IACUC chair even required?
For the committee, I think if you read the guide, someone should be a designated chairman for the committee.
Thank you, Dr. Diggs. We have another question. How are field sites differentiated from satellite facilities?
Hi. Oh, yes. I guess I can start answering for Ola. Sure. So field sites are not part of the institution's, construction, buildings, facilities per se, and are usually meant to indicate, either in the animal's natural environment or like offsite and not in an actual specific facility or building. The oversight for field sites is still under the purview of the IACUC, and they would be required to provide oversight, such as potentially getting reports back from investigators, either pictures or written summaries, because it's not required to visit or site visit the field sites, although there are some locations I'm sure you'd want to visit. But the definition specifically of satellite facility does not really factor in field sites. So I'm kind of going based off of it's not part of the actual facility or buildings of an animal care and use program. So hopefully that is a sufficient answer. And if not, you can certainly follow up with Ola and or myself if there's more to that question, or if I didn't answer sufficiently. I don't know if Helen has additional information.
I'll just say that for us, it'll depend a little bit on how the field site is used, and are there structures there? Is there a staff there during the day? Is this a field site with tents and you're out on the ground observing birds or catching wild rodents, and you're only there for a day or two or a week or two and then you're gone? That's not a facility per se. It's not an area, something that we might be able to even visit. If we can visit it, we might try. We would be willing to do that. If a satellite facility, we think of more as a structured facility, I think, as Dr. Na mentioned, but there's going to be a little variation there. And I don't want anyone to take this to the bank and say, haha, we don't count, because in the eyes of ALAC, if you have animals there and you're using them, we're going to be wanting to know a little bit about that if they're part of your accredited program.
Thank you, Dr. Diggs. I'm going to skip over to this one question because I think this is something that is very pertinent, especially now. Please describe the hybrid site visit. How long will this continue? Can you describe the process a little bit in more detail?
Okay, I can do that here, but I know we're running out of time. What I will do is direct you to our website, and there is actually a video. It's also in PowerPoint that walks you through the hybrid site visit and how it is conducted and performed. And I think it would be better service for you, the questioner, to do that and actually get your answers through that video. and it is on our website. It's site visits, hybrid site visits through COVID, or some name like that. And how long will hybrid site visits continue? I would love to say that they will continue as soon as this, or stop as soon as this pandemic ends. And I would like that to be sooner than later. However, I think there are aspects of the hybrid site visits which many of our programs are enjoying and actually are helping with some of the review process and the timing process, and certainly the participation of people in the process, because they can log on to Zoom and be part of the meeting or the overview right from their offices. So there are some aspects of the hybrid visit that I think ALAC senior executive staff will be looking at as things that we might want to continue into the future, even after, praise be, this pandemic has ended.
Thank you. Dr. Diggs, we have one more question for ALAC International. Is there a minimum census a facility due for a visit should have for the site visitors to come for the inspection? For example, will they come for the site visit if the facility is housing less than 250 rodents?
You just have to be housing one rodent for us, but if you have no rodents, we cannot do your facility inspection. So we cannot inspect facilities and do a site visit for you if you do not have animals on site. So remember that. But if you have, I site visited a facility once and they had 3 pigs. And so we went ahead with the visit, but we had to have the pigs there. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Dr. Diggs. We are coming fairly close to the end of the webinar. So if there are any other questions, you may type them into the chat box now. And any questions that we have not gotten to during this live session, we will address and append to the end of the transcript. So this is one more opportunity to get in a few quick questions because we only have a minute or 2 left. So please do that. And once again, to type in your questions, please do click on the question and answer icon located at the bottom of the middle of your screen to type your questions. And there's a checkbox in the Q&A feature that provides the options to submit questions anonymously. Well, we've run out of time, and I would like to thank Dr. Na and Dr. Diggs for sharing this important information. This concludes the webinar. Once again, you will be able to have your questions answered in a transcript that is to follow. Please look on our website for that in the future. And this concludes the webinar. Please join us for the next OLA online seminar in December with a topic to be determined. Thank you again for attending, and thank you to Dr. Na and Dr. Diggs for sharing their expertise, and goodbye.